This is the story of how I made my book, Wildflower. My new picture book, Wildflower, is a retelling of the classic tale of Thumbelina. I began writing Wildflower in the summer of 2019. At that time, I was at an art residency at the Burn College of Art, which is in Ballyvaughan in Ireland. I was there painting the wildflowers that grow in the Burren and also working on the art for my last picture book, the Book of Selkie. Each morning I had to walk a little ways to the school. One morning I was cutting through the woods and I came out to the field and I was walking through the grass. A little group of swallows started dipping and weaving close to the ground. I never see swallows where I live in Nova Scotia, so I was fascinated by this and I stopped and I watched for a little bit. I kept walking and then a few lines came to me and I wrote them down in my sketchbook. And one of the lines was, "On the back of a swallow, I dipped over the trees." So I do this a lot when I'm walking. I just write down a little line and I leave it there in my sketchbook. And when I go back to my studio, I make a pile on my desk of all of these sketches and little pieces of a poem or descriptions of things. And eventually the pile gets so big that I have to deal with it, and that's when I get an idea for a book or a story. I spent the rest of my time in the Burren hiking and walking and painting and writing in my sketchbook this way. When I got back to my studio in Dartmouth, this is what I had in my pile. I had tons of botanical drawings, I had some writing, I had a few lines of unformed poems which I had no intention of connecting, and I had these photographs. I had my two daughters standing under a giant rhubarb plant that we found in the garden of a hotel. I loved how tiny they looked. And I had this little butterfly wing that my friend Julie gave me at the residency. So here I am in Nova Scotia, back in my studio with all these random things piled on my desk. And one night I opened a book of fairy tales to read to my kids, and it fell open to the page of Thumbelina. At first sight of the page, I saw a girl on a swallow flying over a field of flowers, and this electric current just went through me. Whenever I get this feeling, that is when I make art. This feeling is really all of those little pieces of something that are on my desk and in my brain coming together. So inside of me, it's like the last piece of a puzzle being clicked in and I know exactly what I have to do. It has taken me so long to trust this process because the first part of it, I'm just superstitiously making a pile of stuff on my desk and trusting that at some point far in the future, this is all gonna make sense. This next part, I want to share a little bit about the actual story and show you some of the illustrations. Wildflower's mother lives in a little cottage on a cliff that looks over the sea. She dreams of having a child, and it is her one true wish. With the help of a magical seed that she finds at a witch's house, her wish is granted. A flower grows from the seed, and one night it opens to reveal a tiny, tiny little baby that she names Wildflower. Time passes and Wildflower grows up. She loves her mother, but she is longing for an adventure and doesn't totally fit into the cottage. She sees the birds flying outside and yearns to be allowed to go discover where she is meant to be. Wildflower leaves her mother, who is very sad, but understands that she has to let her daughter find out who she really is. And this is where the adventure begins. Wildflower feels free and happy out in the flowers where she belongs. But then winter comes and Wildflower is not prepared. A mouse and a mole find her and take her into their warm burrow. Wildflower reads to the mouse and mole and helps them keep their little house in exchange for saving her life. But then Mole falls in love and wants him to marry her. Wildflower explains that she has to live free and in the sun like a flower, and she tells them that in the spring she'll be leaving. Mole is upset and locks her in the hole. And now I'm going to save the part where Wildflower escapes and reunites with her mother for you to discover when you read the book. The theme of this book is "You cannot own a wildflower." This refrain is at the beginning and the end of the book, and now you know where I came up with it. It came from when I was learning about the code of the Burren. So people are asked not to pick the wildflowers that grow in the Rocky Hills so that they can reseed themselves and grow freely. 75% of the plants found in Ireland are represented in the Burren, and some of the rarer plants are protected under legislation. By leaving the plants alone, it preserves the ecosystem. This theme also references the hard part about being a parent or a caregiver. At some point, we have to let our children go, and Wildflower grows up and wants to leave her mother, and she wants to live out in nature and find her place. And although the mother is afraid to let this tiny little person go, she knows that she has to. The reunion at the end could only have happened because of the mother's openness and bravery to let her daughter discover herself. I want to thank Nimbus Publishing for being as excited as me about this news story. And I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you stay in touch and find out more about the launch of Wildflower this spring.